stand
Okay, I've
with
got
me
my headphones.
for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Now
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I welcome everybody here. I call this meeting to order. Madam Secretary,
yes.
will you call the roll, please?
Vice Chair Burton,
Present.
Commissioner Puppy,
Here.
Commissioner Ragsdale, Commissioner Kupsick,
Here.
Commissioner Damasio,
Here.
Commissioner Bassler,
Here.
Commissioner Trupiano,
Here.
Alternate Hester, Alternate Manuel,
Here.
Alternate Belshie,
Here.
Alternate McDonald. Looks like Commissioner Ragsdale is out. I don't see her online.
She had an emergency. She's in the ER right now. So she won't be coming in.
So Mr. Belshie is seated for her.
District 2.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. We'll move on to item number 2, the election of the chair. The office of chairperson has been vacant since the resignation of our past chair, Hudek, earlier this year. The position needs to be filled until the election of officers at the annual meeting at the beginning of the new year. Are there any nominations for the office of chair?
Chair, I'd like to nominate Vice Chair Burton for chair.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Can we take a vote, please? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Whew, okay.
You get to keep doing it.
Get to keep this gavel.
Now, Vice Chair.
Now we need to elect, no? No, we do not?
Chair, we'll do nominations and elect a vice chair at the next meeting, since we didn't agendize that.
Thank you so very much. All right. Mr. Hernandez, may I have the minutes, please? Never mind. Are there any edits to the minutes? If not, may I have a motion?
I move to accept the minutes as presented.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Moving on. Regular agenda item number 4. 4A, storage and retail at SEC, Yuma, and Verado site plan. PLZSP-23-00034. The public meeting only. Thank you, Ms. Andrea. It's good to see you again.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. Andrea Marquez, Senior Planner with the City of Buckeye. As Chair mentioned, before you tonight is a site plan proposal for the self-storage and retail located on the southeast corner of Yuma and Verado. Tonight, I will be presenting for Senior Planner Jennifer Roseman. Sorry, there was just a screen up there, so I wanted to make sure you could see your screen. So the applicant is Jennifer Yarborough from Contineo Group on the behalf of the property owner, PSC Buckeye LLC, which is also the developer. It mentions the southeast corner of Yuma and Verado Way. The approximate acreage is 5 acres for the proposal. The proposal for the site plan is for a future commercial shopping center with a 4-story indoor climate-controlled self-service storage facility, and as I mentioned, with 2 future commercial paths. As you can see before you, just a vicinity map. So the existing use of this property currently, it is vacant. It is on the hard corner. Now, the surrounding uses to the north is undeveloped state land. To the south is the Odyssey Preparatory Academy School. To the east is the Desert Hills Baptist Church. And directly to the west, also adjacent to Verado, is the vacant property. So in planning reviews and entitlement that comes forward, we make sure that all the entitlements are in place. The current zoning is commercial, and the general plan is neighborhood. The particular site details for this is a self-storage facility that is going to be approximately 130,000 square foot building. The self-service storage facility is required to have 10 parking spaces and is providing 11 along with 2 loading spaces. For this site, you'll see that there are 2 vehicular access points to the site, one from Verado Way and then also on Yuma Road. Both access points will be right in and right out only, and I'll have a little bit more detail on the next slide. And then, as you can see, to the north side are the future proposed lots B and C. I did want to mention that right-of-way dedication will be required for the improvements along both the Verado and Yuma Road. Those improvements will be with the fee in lieu payment contributed by the developer, since there is a CIP project planned for that hard corner and traffic signal light. The water and wastewater will be provided by the city of Buckeye. And again, the developer will need to complete any improvements needed to serve the development. I wanted to show this. These exhibits are also part of the site plan that was included in the staff report. I just wanted to kind of show side by side. So on the left-hand side of the screen, those are, you can see the access off of Yuma Road, your right in and right out. You can see that the developer is required to have internal access down to the very southern portion where the self-storage will be located. That's indicated in the pink. The brown hashing on there, those are the existing current roads. And all of the improvements are temporary. So the ultimate build out for the half-street improvements, as you can see on the right-hand side, you can see there's going to be a slip lane. So when you're traveling up north on Verado Way, you'll be able to turn right up onto Yuma. When reviewing the site plan, we also go over their conceptual landscape plans to make sure it's in compliance with our development code. So commercial requires a minimum of a 20% landscaping for commercial uses. We also have in our code a 25-foot landscape setback along Verado Way. As you can see, just adjacent to the self-storage. And then there's also a 30-foot landscape buffer along the southern boundary of the property, separating the development from the existing school site. I don't think my, it did kind of work, it moved my slide, sorry about that. And then, of course, all right-of-way landscaping along both arterial, along because this is a master site plan, they'll be required to landscape the full site. We also look at the architectural, the elevation renderings, and this is also for your review and approval for tonight. As you can see, I slipped in some different slides, and I'm going to go over them quickly, but I just wanted to be able to show you these contextually. What you're seeing now, this is not the front of the building, but the internal to the site. So this is what you'll see on the north side of the building. This is the back of the self-storage building that will be facing that 30-foot landscape. And then what you can see from the pickup and the bus line from the school. So that's the rear of the building elevation. And then the line of sight that's just showing you, the one that's there on the screen, so that's going to be on the east side. So you'll see that if you're in the parking lot of the adjacent church. This particular site is the site that is facing Verrado. So when you're driving up north on Verrado, you'll see that there's a lot of glazing on the building. It's a very attractive corner of the building where it's situated. And then on this is the east side. There's not a whole lot of detail, but this is also just looking out on a parking lot and then also adjacent to the fields at the school. So looking at the architectural details, we also make sure there's a mix of materials, which they have ephes material, which is the stucco material. They have various colors such as the white and the tan and the browns and the reds. And then they have the lap siding, aluminum and glass, and also the aluminum canopy on all four sides of the building. For site plans, there was a notice of application done back in December of 2023, as soon as they had submitted the application. No neighborhood meeting. It's not required for the site plan process. And staff has not received any public comments. No opposition to the proposal. The proposed site plan request furthers the intent of the general plan land use, which allows a mix of residential and commercial uses for for the general land use map. And the corresponding use, which is a self-storage and also the future commercial development, represents an overall improvement that will result in a development that is contextually sensitive to the surrounding areas. So before you tonight, staff recommends approval of item 4A, which is PLZSP 23-00034, storage and retail, subject to the conditions of approval A through Z, outlined in the staff report to the Planning and Zoning Commission. That is the end of my presentation. If you have any questions for me, I am available. And I believe the applicant is here. They also, I believe, are online on the Teams.
Would they like to make a presentation?
If the applicant is available, yes.
Yes, I'm on.
Are you online?
Yes, this is Wells Stanwyck with PSC Buckeye.
Wells, do you have anything that you'd like to present tonight, or just make yourself available for questions?
I shared a presentation with Ms. Marquez.
Okay.
Is it something? There we go. Okay, yeah, I will. A lot of the stuff was kind of already showed, but first, just want to introduce myself. Good evening. I'm Wells Stanwyck with PSC Buckeye. I have my engineering team with me, Ron Crump and Ken Hartel with the Continuo Group. First, I guess, on PSC Buckeye, we are a storage developer where we've done about 8 climate-controlled Class A buildings throughout the country. This would be our first in Arizona. We are very selective about our sites, and the city of Buckeye and this site checks all boxes from a population growth standpoint, being one of the fastest growing cities in the country, as well as a lack of supply of Class A storage units in the city. Just for a little context there, we consider oversupply to be about 12 square feet per capita. Buckeye's currently at about 4 square foot per capita. So we foresee this storage building being a value add to the city and activating this vacant parcel. And we, like Ms. Marquez mentioned, we're hoping to activate the front 2 out parcels in the future as well with service retail. As you can see here, this site has been vacant for over 100 years. You can go to the next slide. So a little bit of our intent here with our Class A storage buildings are hours of operations. We have 2 employees, 9:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. We typically allow our patrons their card access and allow them to gain entry from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. As Ms. Marquez mentioned, we worked diligently with the city of Buckeye staff on the architectural detail, which I'll get into a little bit later. Storage is a very low impact use. Traffic, probably one of the least traffic users in the real estate sector. And then, one thing we'll be doing here is we'll keep our trash facilities located within the building. That's one thing we've learned from operating a few of these throughout the country is if you have some trash enclosures or trash cans on the exterior, the patrons tend to dump a lot of their stuff there, and we want to avoid, any mattresses or anything of that nature going in the exterior site. You can go on to the next page, please. Okay. We kind of went through this already, so I won't bore you again with the access points and the location of our buildings. You can keep going. Yep, we've got the elevations here, and you can keep going as well. I'll talk to you at the renderings. I think it's in 2 slides. Yep, one more. Great. This is a rendering we put together just showing, that this isn't your standard storage metal building. We've worked diligently with staff, as I mentioned, to put together an aesthetically pleasing building with multiple wood hardy plank, ephes, aluminum, covering of HVAC units, indentations throughout the building to really break up the facade and, bring Buckeye a really nice building. You can go on to the next one. All right, just here, our underground detention, we'll be managing that all on site. You can even see we'll be building a very large infrastructure for the city of Buckeye in the main street, and we'll be retaining that as well. On to the next site, or next slide. Landscaping. This was another one that we went back and forth with staff a ton on. We went above and beyond on code here to really, dress up this site and bring, the future retail of the out parcels. Hopefully we'll have some good users there, and, bring a site that really, perfect. And then the lighting. This was just another one that we wanted to kind of point out. We'll be managing almost a 0-foot candle at the property line. All the site poles will be within our site and cast downward. So that is all I have for you. I can
Thank you,
answer any
sir.
questions.
Thank you. Commissioners, starting with you, Mr. Belshi.
Good presentation, like the project, and thanks for noting the night sky ordinance. That's much appreciated. I did notice that most of the trees are on the north side of the building, which means the south side is going to get a lot more sun exposure. Not sure if that's going to create more of a heat island, if you've looked at that. I noted the 11 parking spaces are on the west end, but there's doors throughout the building, so are they able to park in those driveways, or how does that work for access? and potential fire department issues.
So we will, if you can go to the site plan, that'd be helpful, just so I can see the building.
Want me to go to, sorry.
Site plan, please.
Yep, right here is perfect. So typically we'll have them park in the parking spaces. They'll come through one of the main access points where we locate our elevators. That way they can come right up into an elevator. And obviously when we go in for building permit, all of our plans will go to the fire department for approval. But we typically, some of the points of access are for them to gain access and have a readily available elevator to get up and to their unit.
Good point on it being elevator required, so yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, and we usually have 2 elevators in a building like this, along with 2 staircase shafts for emergency exit. So that's the other doors that you'll see on the building, and then some other entry points and access points.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cupsack?
Thank you. It's a beautiful building. It will be, it's very striking. My only question, concern, are both the ingress and egress are right in, right out? Will that cause people going up and U-turning and coming back to get in, or you don't think that's gonna be much of a problem?
The right in, right out was dictated by the city. This is what they've told us that we're going to be allowed to do. So I know the reason for the right out was to keep it safe from people who are exiting our property to taking lefts out of our property, given the arterial road and the future median that will go all the way through. So if they were to U-turn, it'll be in compliance with what the city of Buckeye plans for their ultimate road configuration. So I guess I would imagine as that gets planned out, if there's a U-turn, it'll be a safe U-turn condition, or they'll.
Chair, Vice Chair, Chair, and no Vice Chair. Both of these streets in the future ultimate build-out will have medians in them, so that would prevent any sort of illegal type of U-turns. Certainly somebody would be able to go past and turn at like a signalized intersection or something like that.
Okay.
Thank you.
That was my only question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Cupsack. Mr. Damasio?
Just a question out of curiosity. With the school being located to the south, is there going to be anything block wall wise or anything separating the different locations? Is it just going to be the line of landscaping trees?
So let's go ahead and look at the landscape, and we also have the aerial. So there isn't for the drive access to the side, as you can see, and then there's a 30-foot landscape area, and I don't believe there's a screen wall. It's all going to be landscape. But then also, if you look at an aerial, there's another 30 to 50 feet that is on the site of the school site that is used for drainage. So there's a lot of buffering there. And to my recollection, I can't recall if the school has a property fence surrounding their property.
Okay, just curious about it. Thank you.
Mr. Best?
I'm looking at the landscaping around it. I'm assuming that this piece of property does go right up to Desert Baptist Church. And I'm not seeing much coverage on the east side. You talk about the west side, you talk about the south side, but you don't do much about the east side, which is up against the Baptist Church. Are you meeting the requirements for the coverage that you need there?
So, Chair and Commissioner, per code, because both of the sites are under the commercial district, there is not a landscape buffer that's required. The landscape buffer is between residential. I don't know the exact landscape buffer distance here, but you also have to recall that when the adjacent church also developed, they also have a small landscape tract as well that abuts up to their screen wall and their parking lot.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Tripiano.
I think it's a good design. The only problem I have with this is the concept of I know it's minor, but trash. In a perfect world, yes, everyone would haul away their trash. But I've been around enough self-storage places to know that's just not going to happen. Without a dumpster there or a place to store the trash, what is the plan for that? Because we get some big ones here, and we just don't need trash flying all over the place.
Yep, we will have a dumpster. It'll just be internal to the building.
Okay, because that was, the way it sounded in the narrative was,
We'll have a dumpster, and we'll have an internal dumpster so that if, our patrons wanted to come into the building and dispose of their trash, they could. I guess what I was trying to get at is if we just have an enclosure on the exterior, it doesn't stop other people who aren't actually members of paying members of the storage units to come there. It'd be somebody could come and just dump all their trash there or leave it on the exterior. So we will be taking care of trash on the exterior of our site for anything that blows out or is there. All I was saying was we like to keep our trash enclosures internal to the building, and then we haul them out and work with the local trash and municipality of hauling off all trash.
okay, because in the narrative it sounded like there was really, the customers had to take care of their own trash, which I don't think it is going to be 100% all the time. Thank you.
Yep, and with the future retail, we obviously would have trash enclosures for those. It's just something that we've learned with storage a little bit is we try and just keep it internal for if they want to come into the building and dispose of their trash, they can. We just try to make sure that they don't come there and dispose of their trash while they swipe their cards.
Thank you. I just have one question, and it's because I'm nosy. Why do you not have anybody on the property 24 hours, like an employee?
Why don't we, for an employee that's working?
Yes.
We have a security system, and typically we found in most municipalities, they don't love the 24-hour access for patrons. So our patrons only have access from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., sometimes midnight, depending on the municipality. But we usually have employees that just work standard work hours between 9 to 5:30, 8:30 to 6:30, whatever that is. And then we have a full Class A security system, cameras, everything like that.
Thank you. Commission, may I have a motion, please?
Chair, I would like to recommend approval of PLZSP-23-0034, storage and retail, subject to conditions A through Z.
May I have a second, please?
I second that.
It has been moved and seconded. Do I have all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next up is the regular agenda item 4B, the mix on Roosevelt. Rezoning to planned area development, PLZZ 23-00018. This is a public hearing.
Good evening, Chair. Congratulations on your election today. This is, as you mentioned, a rezoning for a project called the Mix in Roosevelt. Apologize, I missed it too in the date of the meeting. It wasn't intentional, but we had our workshop on the landing specific area plan and then Andrea's project just outside the boundary of the landing area, but adjacent to Verado Way. And now we have another project on Verado. So kind of worked out as an all Verado meeting today. This particular property is located at the southeast corner of Verado Way and Roosevelt. Just to orient you, the Buckeye Commons East Shopping Center is directly to the north. That's the Costco shopping center. There's also some additional buildings under construction there. Directly to the east of the site is the Summit Church and some undeveloped property currently also owned, I believe, by Summit Church. To the west, across Roosevelt Street, you have the APS Palo Verde Education Center, and then kind of catty corner to the southwest, of course, West Mech. And then to the northeast is additional future retail, as well as the Abrazo Medical Campus that's currently under construction. The current zoning of the property is planned residential, which is one of our obsolete zoning districts, but it could be developed today should somebody have wanted to with single-family homes. This wouldn't necessarily be in furtherance of what we talked about in the landing. We want a much more dynamic type of environment that we mentioned and Ed was talking about. So we are proposing to rezone the site today. The right map, the general plan land use map, the purple color is the Buckeye Gateway Activity Center, the old name for what we're currently calling the landing. And really that's intended to capture those higher density residential, commercial, and office types of uses. So the gist of the request tonight is to rezone the site to planned area development. And as you recall, probably about 8 months ago or so, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of a development code amendment, and the council ended up approving that, which created the PAD zoning district. We used to have a PAD overlay that we could apply on top of other zones. This allows us to do very unique projects where you can kind of provide mixes of uses and kind of create internal use boundaries, if you will, and that's what we're proposing here today. The first, this project is divided into two kind of unique or distinct sub areas. The first is the commercial sub area that's highlighted in the red on the graphic. That's about just under 13 acres. That will be a shopping center anchored by a specialty grocery store. Can't reveal the particular grocery store, but I can say it's a company that's not currently doing business in the city of Buckeye. So I'll give you guys another option, shopping option. The remainder of the center would be commercial uses from a tailored use list. And I'll talk about the specific uses that we exclude in just a second. But we have narrowed down the uses to make sure that this is a really vibrant, fun, kind of walkable environment. And then the commercial area would be accessed via Roosevelt to the north. You can see the conceptual plan shows a roundabout. This could potentially occur, or this could just be a standard signalized intersection. We're still working with the developer on that to figure out exactly what that's going to look like. Excuse me. The residential sub area, which is the yellow, it's a little bit larger. It's about 17 acres. And that's proposed for a 394 unit apartment complex. That comes in at a density around 22.7 dwelling units per acre.
Don't drink that.
Almost drank the hand sanitizer. You caught me. That's hilarious. The uses in this yellow area would be the MF2 zoning district, your standard multifamily uses. So just allow for people to live there, some limited home occupancies. No real commercial uses would be allowed to occur in that. And that property portion of the development would be accessed from Verado Way via the shared access with the commercial. You could come into the project, or also from Fillmore, where the main entrance would be where my mouse is moving. One of the critical components of this that staff and the developer have worked to improve since the project first came in through the pre-application process is really making this function as a unified, connected type of development. And the proposal does provide two really good internal pedestrian connections where folks from the apartment complex can walk through kind of landscape shade sidewalks and into the commercial area, outletting not in locations that are undesirable, like the loading area, but outletting actually into kind of, highly visible areas on the site. So if you do live in this proposed apartment complex, you'll have great access to go to the grocery store and the restaurants and everything that would be in here without having to get in your car. If you wanted to drive, you could. There are connectivity for vehicles as well. This will be a city water and sewer serve project. Specifics are being worked on, but the developer will be required to complete system improvements as needed to serve the facility. And as is standard, the developer will improve the adjacent half streets, which in this case, Roosevelt Street to the north, Verrado Way to the west, and Fillmore Street to the south. The PAD does allow us to make some tweaks to development standards. Basically, staff works to tweak the development standards with the developers to make sure that we're meeting the intent of the area, in this case trying to create that vibrant area within the landing. But also if we do kind of make some trade-offs, if we give a little here, we have the expectation to get a little to make an offset for that. In this particular case, all of the development standard modifications are supported. We do increase street side building setback, which would apply adjacent to Roosevelt, Verrado, and Fillmore from 0 feet, which is allowed to 8 feet. That will allow some a little bit of landscaping, not a suburban 20, 30-foot buffer, which kind of defeats the purpose of an urban type of design, but just enough to kind of add a little bit of greenery to the street frontages. The internal setback, which only applies to the east, here adjacent to the Summer Church property, that would be reduced to 0 feet. That's really in keeping with the desired urban kind of style of development here, where you can maximize use of the property. Building height would increase up to a maximum of 80 feet. There are no plans by the developer at this time to do any building of that height. Everything here would be proposed for a single story, but in the event it redeveloped in the future, the area was starting to become even more urban, they would have that ability. We also establish minimum building height. That's important in the short term to create that appearance of a more dense, more intense type of area where the single-story commercial buildings, the primary buildings, grocery store, et cetera, would be a minimum of 30 feet, with all the pads being a minimum of 20 feet. So it'll, as you drive along or walk along, it'll look a little more intense than your standard commercial development. There are some modified design standards for street-facing facades, as well as some enhancements in the PAD for the drive-through uses to make sure that those are properly screened and they don't really detract from the pedestrian orientation of the site. Very similar for the residential portion, the same street side building setbacks and internal building setbacks. The MF2 district actually doesn't have a maximum height, so we have established one here just to put a cap on it so people would be a little bit more comfortable. There is a requirement standard for code, very suburban style of requirement that requires any building within 50 feet of a street. If it's 3 stories, it can only be two stories in that first 50 feet. So it would have to be 2 stories, and then it could step up to an additional 3rd story. We're proposing to eliminate that here to get, again, that same urban vertical feel in this project. The landscape percentage would double from what is required to 20%, and there are enhanced design requirements as well. All of the, not all, but the primary emphasis when we worked with the development team on this is the Verrado Way frontage. We want to really make this feel like a very special street. And how do you do that? You don't do it by having a lot of parking adjacent to it. You want the buildings, you want very nice buildings pressed toward the sidewalk. So when you drive down the street, it feels like you're actually in an exciting place, you know, something where activity is going on. So we do that here. You can see kind of the site plan view of Verado, how the buildings are basically along almost the entire frontage pressed up to the street. There are some small gaps where is parking, but they're smaller lots, and there'll be a lot of landscaping provided in those locations. There are no drive-throughs currently proposed along that frontage, so it'll feel much more like a kind of traditional pedestrian-oriented retail area as well as the residential. This graphic here in the lower left, that's the rendering of the project. If you're standing, I don't recommend you actually take a picture here. Thank you. Much better than the hand sanitizer.
I think so.
Doesn't kill COVID, but probably that doesn't either. All right, so yeah, back to the matter at hand. This rendering is from the perspective of if you were standing in the intersection at Verado and Roosevelt, looking into the project, so looking southeast into the project. So you'll have the two retail buildings that kind of converge and create a shared outdoor dining, pedestrian-oriented type of area to activate that street frontage, and then the retail would continue on from there. This is a typical kind of residential elevation adjacent to Verado. See kind of taller looking buildings to create that urban kind of vertical form that we're looking for. You also see that, you know, a lot of apartment complexes will like to put the wall on the outside of the project. So it kind of feels like an insulated type of community. Once you're inside the walls, you kind of live in your own paradise. In this particular case, we thought it was very important to not have the perimeter of the project look like a walled campus. We want this something to look like it was interfacing with the street, much more like you know, brownstones or walk-up apartments do in more urban areas. So the buildings themselves, there will be walls and fencing enclosing the site, but it will be between the buildings, whereas the exterior of the Verado-facing side of the building will be kind of open. So those units on the ground floor will, you know, hypothetically be able to access the sidewalk without having to go through any wall or gate. The PAD is consistent in staff's belief with what we're working on with the landing. What we're trying to accomplish is identified in the general plan, which is really for a mixed use type of vision for the area, higher intensity. The design emphasizes the pedestrian, not only, you know, putting buildings up at the public sidewalk adjacent to Verado and Roosevelt and Fillmore, but also internally providing those shaded connections. The uses, actually didn't talk about them, but we do eliminate a handful of uses in this proposed PAD, or at least heavily restrict them. Auto-oriented uses, auto repair, car washes, gas stations not permitted within this PAD. The one exception would be a gas station if the grocery store itself had a gas component, but a freestanding gas station, convenience store would not be allowed. Some of the, I hate to use the word lower end, but I will, retail types of uses, pawn shops are prohibited. Thrift stores are restricted in size, so you wouldn't be able to have a very large thrift store here, 5,000 square feet max. And then at risk of offending the prior applicant, some of the lower intensity commercial uses like storage that aren't necessarily consistent with the vibrancy of the area. We want people walking around. Storage facility typically won't kind of create that feel. So those uses are also not included within this. The aesthetic is excellent. It's contemporary, it's vertical, it's taller than what we typically get. It's still, I wouldn't call it downtown Phoenix quite yet, but we're making baby steps to get there. And the materials, the various components of the design do complement each other across the commercial and residential. They don't look identical, but they use some similar materials and some similar colors to blend together. I mentioned already, just highlight again, The developer here will complete the infrastructure adjacent to the project. The extent we're still determining on some of the water and sewer. And lastly, there are no outstanding comments from any of the other reviewing departments. Public participation, we did have a neighborhood meeting. It was very quiet. It was just me, the applicant team, as well as Councilmember Eustace in attendance. No, what I would call general public. We've received no written or support or opposition to this project throughout the process. Both the elementary school district and high school district who will serve this property have been notified. Of course, this will create some student needs here. Liberty Elementary School District has responded that they anticipate having adequate capacity, so no need to do anything with them. And the developer is working with the Buckeye Union District on a donation agreement. Of course, all of our standard notice requirements have been met for this hearing. So with that, Chair, staff does recommend approval of the project of this proposed rezoning, subject to conditions A through Z. I did want to note that we did send out a memo. Carrie sent out a memo yesterday with some very minor modifications to some of the stipulation language. I don't think it's anything P&Z would care about. It's very technical. You know, when triggers, what triggers what and whatnot, but we wanted to share that with you, and that's the recommended language tonight. So we would recommend approval subject to conditions A through Z, but as stated in yesterday's memorandum. With that, Chair, I'm happy to take any questions you may have. The applicant, Carolyn Oberholzer with Bergen, Frakes, Smalley, and Oberholzer is available. They don't necessarily want to or need to make a presentation, but they're happy to address any questions.
Thank you. You did a fine job.
Thank you.
And I'm glad you
Chair?
didn't drink. Yes.
Rebecca Puppy is here. I've been here.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Didn't ask her.
Do you have any questions at this time? Rebecca?
No, I do not. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you.
No, I do not, but last time I did, but that's okay. We're fine. Just want to
Sorry.
make sure you knew I was here.
Thank you, Rebecca. I'm glad you didn't drink the hand sanitizer. Send it my way since I didn't let Rebecca speak. At this time, we're going to entertain questions from the commission. We'll start at this end this time. Mr. Tripiano?
I have no questions at this time.
Mr. Bassler?
I have no questions at this time. It's a nice presentation.
Mr. Damasio?
I have nothing either.
Ms. Kupsek?
Hi, thank you. In your presentation, Ken, you said that the multifamily buildings next to the road would be 2 stories and stair-stepped, or does that not apply to that? Because these are 3-story.
Yeah. Chair, Commissioner Kupchak. So yeah, no, the code without a modification would require, for instance, in this case, this building to go to 2 stories and then at least 50 feet from back of road, and then it could step up to 3. We support eliminating that code requirement. We want more vertical form of development here, so they would be able to do what's shown here.
Oh, okay. I was confused by your statement earlier and then the picture.
I'm sure I probably butchered my description of that.
No, but it's very exciting, the whole concept. Thanks.
Mr. Belshi?
Okay, so the commercial, you're wanting it to be a minimum of 30 feet in height, but there's no residential component above that, so it's just straight commercial. Is there truly a need for the commercial to be that tall?
Chair, Commissioner, it's just a desire. I don't know if it's not a usable type of space, I guess, but again, it kind of goes to creating that vertical edge vertical feel for development that would help separate it within the landing area from, more traditional suburban commercial areas.
Are the residential and commercial components going to be developed from the same developer, do we know, or are those two separate developments?
Chair, Commissioner, they are two separate entities.
Because I wondered why we're not doing horizontal or vertical mixed use instead of horizontal, but I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, I think there's probably a few reasons for that. Definitely being separate entities is one of those. I think the other, as much as we don't like to hear it, there's just not a lot of demand for that type of product yet in the valley, outside of very established areas. We'll get there eventually, I think, I hope, but you just don't see it happening all that often.
I just wonder why we're pushing for heights when there's no specific use or need. I mean, I could totally see the need if we're doing residential above, that makes sense.
It's more of an architectural kind of element, I guess.
Because several residents have expressed concerns with heights of buildings and limiting their views and things around, so.
Yeah, in this particular case, there's no existing residential in close proximity to the site to worry about those types of concerns.
I guess that was my main question about the height. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Belshi. At this time, I will open it up for a public hearing. Madam Secretary, do I have any requests to speak? Thank you.
I have
Br-
none at
Question.
Carrie? Is that you or Rebecca?
it is Carrie. I was able to get in touch with Angelica, and she said that there were no public speaker cards this evening.
Thank you, Carrie. And being that there aren't any, I will close this public hearing. And I will call for a motion. What is your pleasure?
Sorry?
Need our cheat sheet.
I move that we pass PL ZZ-23-000018, subject conditions A through Z.
As
I'll
stated.
second.
As
Oh.
stated.
Yeah, as stated in the communication from yesterday.
As stated in the memorandum dated October 21st, 2024.
Is there a second?
Rebecca.
I will second.
It has been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next on the agenda is comments from the public. There's no public comments? Then we will move to Mr. Galika.
Good evening, Chair. Two things to report this evening. Thank you for coming. The first is, we kind of already discussed it, but we will have vice chair nominations at next meeting, so our first meeting in November. The second is, and we sort of talked about this during the workshop, but there is a community meeting for the landing. We encourage not only commissioners, but friends, family, et cetera, to come to that. That will be November 6th, so the day after the election, assuming the world is still here. It will start at 5:30 p.m. That will be at our new facility in the landing, so if you haven't had a chance to visit us there, please come see the new digs.
Thank you.
Is there gonna be communication sent out for that? Along with the address and all that?
We've got it on the website already. If you sign up on the website, we'll also provide it to that way.
Thank you, Mr. Galika. Any comments from the commission?
Yeah, I just want to remind people about the Halloween event downtown this weekend. So it goes for charities, buy tickets, and the proceeds go to local charities. So it's a good event.
Thank you, Mr. Bassler.
No comments.
Mr. Basio.
No comments or current events?
Ms. Cupsack.
Halloween Carnival is like the 90th annual Halloween Carnival's like a 90th annual. It's the one event in Buckeye that has lasted forever and ever. So and it's taken over downtown. So it's very good though. That's all.
What about your Friday little thing?
Well, Friday night, the Chamber's hosting our annual dinner, Buckeye Rocks, which is the community awards celebration. So we'll have about 320 people in the rodeo arena and have fun.
Thank you, Ms. Cupsack. You get to keep your job. Mr. Belshi.
I was only going to mention the Halloween Carnival, but that's already been mentioned, so that's it.
Thank you. And I'd like to, Mr. Galika.
Yeah, I just thought of something else that now we're talking about the Halloween Carnival. Am I okay? Okay, just making sure I wasn't going to get my wrist slapped. There are some additional events scheduled for downtown. City's supportive of both of them. They're not city events. There is a, what's it called? The Buckeye Night Market and the Buckeye First Friday. They're both actually going to be occurring simultaneously. One at 6th Street Plaza across from City Hall over there, and the other at the foot of Hobo Joe. And I believe that'll be on November 8th. I should have checked the date to confirm, but I'm pretty sure it's November 8th, starting in the evening, like 5:36. Vendors, vendors, I think art and food.
Local vendors for the night market, so that's really cool.
Is there anything else? All hearts and minds are clear? This meeting's adjourned.